Hello and welcome back to History in a Nutshell. Now, I've been thinking about this a bit recently. You may have seen my previous video on the Cold War and we touched a bit about the role of sort of German-Russian relations in that. And it just occurred to me that a phrase, if you're researching into this, you've probably come across, is Ostpolitik. And it's a very loosely used phrase. It's one of those phrases that has multiple meanings that sort of overlap. And I just thought, for those of you who are interested in these things, or those of you who, for whatever reason, and whatever stage in your history journey are looking into this phenomenon, it's good to have a good sort of English language explanation of what Ostpolitik is, how it affects the Cold War. Obviously Ostpolitik, it's a German portmanteau, it's a merger of words, it basically means Eastern policy or Eastern politic, to give you a sort of crude translation. As sort of suggested by the name, it refers to the relations with Germany, between Germany and countries to the east of them in Europe, specifically countries outside the Atlantic Alliance in Europe, and particularly the Soviet Union or with Russia. And so it's bandied about a bit. The sort of classic phrase of Ostpolitik, where it was popularised, was during the social liberal era, from the time Willy Brandt comes to power in 1969 in the Federal German Republic through to the early 80s. This is a time when the Federal German Republic, West Germany as it's sort of commonly known in the English-speaking world, is seeking to normalise relations with its eastern neighbours, establish diplomatic recognition with them, and also as a more long-term goal, normalise relations with the Soviet Union. Now, it sort of goes without saying, in the early Cold War, the Soviet Union and West Germany weren't the best of friends, to put it mildly. West Germany under Adenauer is adamant that it wants to integrate into the sort of Western world. It's very committed to the European coal and steel community, the forerunner of the EU in a way. It's very committed to NATO and the Atlantic Alliance. Certainly Adenauer himself is not interested in neutralism at all. There's a sort of, the doctrine in West Germany is called the Hallstein Doctrine. So, in a nutshell, West Germany is the sole legitimate German state. Anyone who recognises East Germany diplomatically, West Germany won't diplomatically recognise you. Effectively. So, hard line, no relations with East Germany, by extension, not much of one with the Soviet Union, or a very minimal one that doesn't really do anything and is quite antagonistic. So Willy Brandt comes in 1969. His big idea to ease Cold War tensions is to form a better relationship with the DDR, with East Germany, to normalise relations with Poland and to normalise relations with Russia, the Soviet Union as it then was, somewhat down the road. That's his sort of big vision for sort of European politics. Now there's a few reasons that sort of underpin this. The Social Democratic Party in Germany, to cut a very long story short, a reoccurring theme in their history is that they want collective security to guarantee a peaceful Germany, within Central Europe specifically. So in some ways, the Ostpolitik in the Cold War context is just them doing what they've always done, effectively. Also, there's practical considerations. A key point of Ostpolitik is in 1970, where, in essence, the Federal German Republic and the USSR begin to trade with each other. Now, this is topical, as we'll see in a bit, because it in essence involves German steel being used to build Soviet pipelines to bring natural gas down into Germany and further on into Western Europe. So there is a commercial underpinning to this and there is an element of trade to this. Also, I think it's something that's often overlooked, we might go into this in another video, is the West German peace movement. Their influence both on the Free Democratic Party, which is often overlooked, and the Social Democrats. So if the Social Democrats and Willy Brandt's sort of centre-right or originally centre-right coalition partner are both heavily intertwined with the West German peace movement. And also, I would argue there's some neutralist influence personally here. Max Heinemann, Willy Brandt's President of the Federal Republic, is previously very neutralistic. He's actually very anti-NATO originally in the 1950s. So I think it's wrong to deny there's a neutralist element to this. And so Obviously in the 1960s, Germany is becoming more visible on the world stage. Remember, West Germany by this point is a major world economy. It's a major trading partner, globally speaking, although it's something of a political dwarf in that it isn't really a major world power. It doesn't have much hard power. It doesn't join the United Nations, I believe, until 1972. And so it's quite emasculated as sort of countries go in that sense. Remember, 1969, the same year that Willy Brandt comes to power, is the same year the German space programme, the DLR, is launched. As we've said on the channel before, space programmes and status in the world stage go together, I would argue, like a key and a lock, effectively. So at the same time Germany is becoming more visible, it's also becoming more independent in terms of its foreign policy. It's also looking for partners in the sort of Eastern Bloc. And so that's what I would argue Ostpolitik is. West Germany's search for sort of allies and partners in the Eastern Bloc, whilst also being more assertive on the world stage, whilst also forming an economic relationship with Russia that's in some ways persisted until very recently. It's also tied into ideas around German neutralism and the influence, I would argue, of the German anti-war movement. So that's in a nutshell what Ostpolitik is. Ostpolitik does have some very deep reverberations. If you think back to the beginning of the conflict in Ukraine, there was a lot of focus actually on pipelines and fossil fuels and the connections sort of betwixt and between them involving Germany and Russia. Obviously with Nord Stream 2 sabotaged and with the sort of rise in energy costs as a result of that, there was inflationary pressure in many Western countries, as we saw. So this does have an impact. And to be honest, I suspect that's where some of you first heard of Ostpolitik, and certainly where it became topical. So just in closing, Ostpolitik, Eastern policy, Germany working with countries to the east of them, specifically those outside the Atlantic Alliance. It's quite important because it overlaps with a lot of West German goals in the Cold War, and it also explains German-Russian relations from the sort of late 1960s to the present. So that's it in a nutshell, you could say. I could talk a lot longer about this. If you've got any questions about this, please put them in the comments below. I would love to elaborate on more detail. Until then, have a great day. I look forward to seeing you again soon on History in a Nutshell.